All right, R-rated reviews with a quarantine edition. I'm just here. Shh, Wilson, I'm podcasting. What? No, Wilson, you don't see a boat. We're not even near the water. Wilson, quiet or I'll deflate you. What? Yes, I'll cover you in coconut oil later, I promise. Okay, today I'm looking at The Final Name by Jacob Andrew Emrey. This podcast unofficially brought to you by Nestle Water. Nestle knows that the best things in life rise from the ashes of human suffering, which is why they guarantee that nearly all your water will be bottled by child slaves. If that's not enough to wet your beak, know that most of the water is stolen from desert areas suffering droughts. So close your eyes and imagine all those thirsty souls next time you have a sweet, sweet sip. Nestle is also proud to introduce its new Baby Bottle Breakaway Bash. With this new promotion, Nestle will not only deliver giant plastic bottles of slave water to your house, but each bottle will come with 6 smaller, empty, free bottles for more water bottling. Just think of all the turtles that will die when you throw those bottles in the ocean. Nestle. So yeah, Nestle. I didn't even realize it was pronounced like that. Nestle. Pretty fancy sounding company for a bunch of cunts. Anyway, this book was something I stumbled upon at the bookstore. I liked the cover art, and honestly, it's been a long time since I've read anything with orcs. I realized that I missed orcs, so I picked this up. The Final Name centers its narrative around 3 protagonists, a human, an elf, and an orc. Each character is unique and important in their own way to developing and advancing the plot, and also to building the world they inhabit and its history. The human is rich, the elf is a bitch, and the orc is thick. It's probably not the best explanation. This book comes out swinging. But if you could make it through Mark Lawrence's Prince of Thorns and the scandal that was basically an off-page sexual act that shall not be named during the aftermaths of a battle, then I'm sure you'll survive the opening pages of The Final Name as, spoiler alert, this approach to the sexual act that shall not be named has less of a carte blanche feel and more of a Kill Bill vibe. Astanava, the elf, is our Uma Thurman here, Dryden is our male Paris Hilton, and Fane is our Timothy Oliphant in Deadwood, violence always simmering beneath the surface, Old West Orc Sheriff. Great. But is this book just about elf hookers, orc junkies, magic weapons, and snorting blood cocaine to unveil secret powers, or is there more? As stated on page 147, does a mermaid piss in the sea? Hell yeah. I mean, I think they do. Wait, do mermaids even have... Never mind. This book also delves into politics, gun ownership, the needs of the one versus the many, and also personal struggles that touch on fate, duty, and freedom. Here's a thinly veiled jab at democracy on page 68. You see, that's why I hate democracy, Cole interjected. No offense, Sheriff, but I don't trust voting. I mean, think about it. Who makes the decisions when you vote? He paused and looked at Becker, but he didn't answer. Whoever has the most people, not who's right, and most people are stupid, really. He looked back at Fane with his eyebrows high. How many people are highly educated? The majority? Hell no. So what is democracy then? Rule by the stupid, plain and simple. Yeah, take that, Republicans, or Democrats, or whatever. There was also a stretch in this book where time kept being referenced as passing quickly, so quickly that it defied belief how much change had occurred in a short period. You can see one glimpse of that on page 296. Dryden had been waiting for this moment since he first laid eyes on Astanava, which seemed like years ago, but in truth had only been a stretch of days. And about 40 pages later, it's still there on page 333. The first time he saw her in the silver tongue flashed through his mind, and he couldn't help but smile and shake his head. So much had changed in a week. This, of course, referencing the fact that a mere week ago she was just a cute elf hooker with a sad story, but now she was some sort of dark magic-wielding, all-powerful vampire blood elf. Cocaine, it's a hell of a drug. The reason I bring this up is because during the stretch where the illusory nature of time kept being brought up, I couldn't help but think of one of my favorite movies of all time, Wet Hot American Summer. There's a scene in that movie where the campers go into town for some quick shopping. They get some ice cream and fast food, then start smoking and buy some beer, and hijinks ensue. Weed gets smoked, cocaine gets purchased in a seedy alley, an old lady gets robbed, and of course, it culminates in a flophouse where the now heroin-addled campers waste their lives away. When they return, one camper sums it all up perfectly when he says, "It's always fun to get away from camp, even for an hour." Any book that makes me remember wet, hot American summer is fine by me. Okay, tangent time. What's up with female orcs, and even female dwarves for that matter? Two of the mainstay races for the fantasy genre, and we never hear anything about the women. I think the women of Earth need to expand their feminism into the world of fantasy. Demand equal rights for female orcs and dwarves. I just have so many questions. Do female dwarves have beards? Are they stout as well? Why aren't they fighting? Do they do all the mining in the mountains while the guys go off drinking, fighting, and singing? And orcs, do they have huge green boobs? Less tusks? Are they like Instagram booty girls with just ferocious glutes and curves? I need to know these things. Hopefully, the sequel will address it. It's a really interesting story and world he's built here, and without spoiling too much, the ending was very well done. It's really rewarding when you get all the way to the end and realize, hey, this whole book was just about how you should never trust hookers? Wait, was that not the point? Anyway, just happy to read about orcs again and hoping for more in the future. I even found myself saying out loud when the book was finished, "Job's done." As I find the 5-star system a bit limiting, I like to use my subjective rating system, SLICK, which stands for Story, Language, Ideas, and Characters on a 10-point scale. Here's how I rated the final name. For story, I gave it an 8. This book does a great job of building towards a climax that not only concludes the story, but definitely sets up the next one. For language, I gave it a 7. Feels like the language's purpose here is to tell the story, and in that it succeeds. For ideas, I gave it an 8. There's some interesting concepts, not just about magic weapons and dark powers, but also about relatable human themes and identity struggles. For characters, I gave it a 9. This is where the book shines for me. The 3 protagonists are all interesting and have depth and purpose. I also strive for a contrived comparison with every book. This book is the bastard love child of Con Iggulden and Warcraft 2. Iggulden, my favorite writer of historical fiction, writes fantastically direct tales that read like a screenplay for an action movie. Warcraft 2 was an absolute legend of a game I played during my childhood that focused on real-time strategy battles between humans and orcs. This book naturally blends those two elements, focusing on the struggles between races in a historical setting, and also feels like it could easily be adapted to the big screen. Why not? It couldn't be any worse than the Warcraft movie. Cast The Rock as Fane, and you're good to go. I hope you enjoyed this podcast or absolutely hated it. Either way, leave me a comment, a like, share, whatever, and I hope it helps your quarantine lifestyle, and see you next week for another R-rated review.